certified food protection manager and inspection performance research that we were doing with Dr. Allison Howe of The Ohio State University and
Yes.
Dr. Kowalczyk.
And I said, David, if we could, the great David Stiles in the control room, clip one, C1. I actually, now this is embarrassing because this is a picture you all, and you're about to tell it, so I won't steal your thunder, but this was a presentation at the Conference for Food Protection. And I found it really interesting. And I actually, you can see on the picture there, it's a snapshot. I took it on my phone of the summary board of it that was posted on Gator Foam at the Conference for Food Protection. But everybody that has the video feed should see it now. And yeah, this was fascinating to me because it looked at the corollary between a certified food safety manager on staff and outcomes. Is that correct? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so what this did is we looked at inspection data retrospectively before Ohio had introduced a requirement to have at least one certified food safety protection manager at each facility. And so we looked at the data before and then after. And so we was able to glean from that. The inspection data can be used to show changes to food safety regulations, and we can monitor how that affects what happens in our facilities, as well as, we were able, a hot question is like, well, what about inspector variability? This is a huge thing. We try to standardize, but it's still an issue. Fortunately, from minds smarter than me, they are able to do statistical methods that account for the inspector variation. So we're able to take that part out and see what is left.
So do you mind,
I
don't want to interrupt your flow, but that is fascinating. How are you doing that? How do you take out because by definition, it's kind of ineffable, that variability. So how did you accomplish that?
Yeah, so that is the brains using GLMM approaches, and that's a whole different podcast as well. So I won't get into the complete weeds of that. Anyone that would like to reach out via my email or through LinkedIn, I'm happy to discuss more and get more in the weeds with that. But, you're able to do that and also take out for other variations. And that's why we partnered with academic institutions to be able to have the best and brightest minds to be able to make sure we're not seeing blind spots in that data. And what came from that is we see the increased investment in infrastructure through the data modernization and data systems. We're able to collect and disseminate information, which allows us to do a representative analysis. And then we can use that to increase foodborne, disease prevention activities at local health departments. And that data was gleaned was able to pull from the state of Ohio based on the organizations that used health space retrospectively, both before and after the introduction of the requirement for CFPMs.
Yeah, so you pull it from a database from HS. What were the findings? So it sounds like you had extra infrastructure investment that went in, which is really interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that one. What was the impact once that rule went into effect on outcomes and the overall general performance of facilities once they came into compliance with the new rule?
We did find incredible linkages to the number of critical violations found of facilities who had a CPFM on site. And it's even further exemplified. Some facilities require all their manager, it's more than one is the bare minimum. And so the more that they had, the more that they had them on site, we saw better inspection results. So things like that allows us to take, okay, so why in areas that it didn't improve, why was that? And that's where we can look into, is there cultural language barriers? Or what other things are preventing that from being as effective as possible?
Yep.
And so I'll just add on to that, NATO published information about our food safety manuals, which are created in a variety of languages. And I think that has also helped as well.
Cameron Garrison here. We'll get you right back to the video in a minute on the Beyond Data Management channel. Want to take a moment to thank the sponsor and underwriter of the entire channel on all platforms, HS GovTech, the creators of HS Cloud Suite, which is the preeminent platform for data management for over 1,000 health departments around the country, whether it's permits, inspections, complaints, or disclosure online to citizens and the public. It's all in HS Cloud Suite. and it's more affordable than you might think. Again, special thanks to HS GovTech for sponsoring the Beyond Data Management podcast, allowing us to bring the stories of environmental health to all of you in the community. Now back to the video. Yes, that especially in you're in a larger metro area department. This is a real and growing issue, the language barrier. I think this is another area where AI is going to be really helpful because it will allow. So, for example, even basic day-to-day things, a project that I've been involved with is AI virtual agents, which have gotten to the point they're almost indistinguishable from a human, but you can text with them as well for things like foodborne illness complaint or reporting intake, because you have an AI agent that can speak 39 languages, infinitely scalable, 24/7, 365. Do you see a role for technology in some of the more difficult to reach places, especially around things like language barrier and where it's really hard to get a breakthrough and be heard?
Definitely. I think it'll be also very necessary because it was very expensive. We created our own, it was a cross in between a level 1 and a level 2 food safety manual. And so we created our own with just the very basics, but it was very costly for us to translate all of those into different languages. And it's not that there wasn't any out there, but oftentimes we didn't have a companion English piece. So while we looked at the pictures and maybe could glean what it was about, we didn't really know. And we have to understand that that's how those that maybe English as a second language look at our handouts as well. I think it's talking about the sink, but I really don't know what it's saying.
Yeah, and it's been a persistent problem, and I think as the culture gets more diverse, it's going to continue to grow in its scale. So in retrospect, it's pretty definitive, you think, to say that the rule requiring a certified food safety manager had a definitive impact and was in the interest, in hindsight, of public health and safety?
I do. And I would like to add in for any of those who may be listening that have the power to do this. I think if at some point we could automatically print or translate, send our inspection reports in other languages, that I think that would be really helpful for those that are receiving them to be able to see it in their own language. And to track back to the AI bit, it makes it affordable and something that we can actually do on the daily basis.
Yeah. And, you know, as we've said on multiple episodes, I will take a quick side trail on it, though, here. It's not a commercial for our sponsor and underwriter of it, but the multiple languages is a feature that I know is in HS Cloud Suite and is really starting to get traction. Because you're right. If you have someone whose primary language is not English and you're trying to give them information on proper cooling or whatever, if they can't read and understand it, you might as well have not given them anything.
I think that's super critical. And just remembering, those from other countries, they also share our love of food and they want to share their culture with us. And so I can tell you, we had a fantastic response, and some of our folks were so happy to receive these. And we immediately saw improvements in those facilities just when the inspector was going in. And one of them specifically was like, I was so excited. And she shared it and taught her team based on that. And so I just think we have to be able to look at these things, that it really is an issue. And for us to get better performance and collaboration with those that don't speak English as a first language, I think that's going to be imperative and super helpful for any organization that can do that.